Welcome back to Jikook Daily, your place for the latest BTS and Jikook updates, moments, reactions, and stories that RMY simply cannot stop talking about. Today, we have an emotional update surrounding Jungkook that has left fans deeply concerned, and at the same time, touched by the love and support surrounding him. But before we get into everything, stay with us until the very end, because there is one important detail you need to know. Jungkook recently opened up about a painful injury affecting his shin, revealing that the condition had become serious enough for him to visit a hospital. And while fans immediately began looking for signs of who was supporting him behind the scenes, Jimin's name quickly became part of the conversation. But what is actually confirmed, what comes from fan discussions, and what should we be careful about believing? That is exactly what we are going to break down today. And if you love Jikook updates, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Jikook Daily, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next update. Your support means so much, especially as we continue following BTS throughout the ARIRANG World Tour. Now, let's get into the story. Jungkook has always been known for giving everything he has when he performs. Whether he is dancing, running across a massive stage, jumping during choreography, or simply standing in front of thousands of fans and delivering his vocals, his performances are rarely low energy. That dedication is one of the qualities RMY have admired about him for years. But during the latest chapter of BTS ARIRANG World Tour, Jungkook revealed something that immediately changed the way many fans looked back at his recent performances. Following BTS Baltimore concerts, Jungkook appeared on a Weverse livestream with V. During that conversation, he opened up about a problem involving his shin. According to reports about the livestream, Jungkook described the condition as being close to a stress fracture, with significant inflammation and what he believed could be micro-damage to the bone. That revelation immediately worried RMY, because when fans watch Jungkook on stage, they see the superstar. They see the confidence, the choreography, the lights, the crowd, the smiles, and the incredible physical strength. What they do not always see is what happens when the stage lights turn off. Behind those performances is a human being who can experience pain, exhaustion, injuries, and physical limitations just like anyone else. And Jungkook's comments made that reality impossible to ignore. One of the most emotional parts of the discussion was the fact that Jungkook explained that his injury was affecting how much he could move during performances. He wanted to jump. He wanted to give the same level of energy that fans have come to expect from him. But sometimes, the pain was simply too much. Reports from the livestream quote Jungkook explaining that he had wanted to keep jumping, but that it hurt too much at times. He also indicated that because the tour was continuing, completely stopping was not straightforward, so he was trying to manage his movements carefully while continuing the North American leg. For RMY, that detail hit differently. Because suddenly, moments from the recent concerts could be viewed through another perspective. Fans began looking back at clips and noticing that Jungkook appeared to reduce certain movements, especially jumping and running, compared with what fans might normally expect from him. Of course, fans should be careful here. Seeing Jungkook perform differently does not allow anyone to diagnose his condition from a video. Only Jungkook and his medical professionals know the exact details of his injury, but his own comments provide an important piece of context. He was hurting, and despite that pain, he was still trying to perform. That is what made so many RMY emotional. Jungkook also confirmed that he had gone to the hospital. This is an important point because it means the hospital visit itself is not merely a fan rumor. Jungkook discussed his condition and medical attention during the livestream, and this is where the Jikook conversation became especially emotional. As soon as fans learned that Jungkook had needed medical attention, many Jikook fans began discussing Jimin and imagining what the members' support for Jungkook might have looked like away from the cameras. The headlines circulating among some fandom spaces became even more emotional, Jimin accompanying Jungkook to the hospital. It sounds like the kind of quiet moment that would melt the hearts of Jikook fans. Jimin walking beside Jungkook, Jungkook dealing with pain, Jimin staying close. A simple gesture of support. But there is an important distinction we need to make here. At this time, there is no reliable public confirmation that Jimin personally accompanied Jungkook to the hospital. What is confirmed is that Jungkook went to the hospital because of his shin problem. The public information does not establish that Jimin was the person who accompanied him. So while fans may find the idea incredibly touching, we should not turn a fan interpretation into a confirmed event. That distinction matters, especially when discussing real people's health. It is perfectly understandable for fans to say, "I hope Jimin was there for Jungkook," or "I can imagine Jimin taking care of him." Those are expressions of affection and fandom imagination, but saying Jimin definitely took Jungkook to the hospital would go beyond what has been publicly confirmed. And here at Jikook Daily, we want to keep the emotion while also respecting the facts. Because the real story is already emotional enough. Jungkook was in pain, he sought medical attention, he continued performing despite physical limitations, and he openly asked fans to understand if he could not give his full physical energy during upcoming performances. That alone tells us how seriously he was thinking about the fans. Rather than pretending everything was perfectly normal, Jungkook chose to explain why his movements might look different. That was a meaningful decision. Imagine being on a massive world tour. Imagine knowing that tens of thousands of people are waiting to see you. Imagine hearing the crowd scream your name. And then imagine having to make a difficult decision. Push your body harder because you want to give fans everything, or hold back because you know your body needs protection. For someone like Jungkook, who is famous for his intense performances, that decision cannot be easy, yet he appeared to recognize that he needed to be more careful. He reportedly explained that he would continue being cautious and planned to receive further treatment after returning to Korea. That statement also gave RMY something important to remember. Supporting Jungkook does not mean demanding that he perform through pain. Supporting Jungkook means allowing him to take care of himself. It means understanding if he does not jump as high. Understanding if he walks instead of runs, understanding if choreography is modified, understanding if he needs to conserve energy, and most importantly, understanding that his health comes before a perfect performance. The concert may last a few hours, but Jungkook's health has to last much longer than that. This is why many fans have been expressing concern ahead of the next stops on the ARIRANG World Tour. Some fans online have discussed their worries about whether Jungkook will be able to maintain the same physical intensity at upcoming concerts. Others have said they would rather see him perform with reduced movement or even sit when necessary than risk making the injury worse. That reaction is understandable. RMY want to see Jungkook smiling, they want to see him dancing, they want to hear him sing. But nobody wants to watch him sacrifice his long-term health just to complete one performance. And this is also where the role of the other BTS members becomes important. BTS have spent years together, they have traveled together, performed together, experienced exhaustion together, celebrated victories together, and faced difficult moments together. So when one member is struggling physically, it is natural for fans to wonder about the support system around him. That includes Jimin. Jimin and Jungkook have shared countless moments throughout BTS history, from rehearsals and backstage footage to concerts, live streams, travel schedules, and everyday interactions. Because of that long history, fans naturally pay attention whenever one member appears to support another. But we should not need a dramatic hospital photograph to recognize that BTS members care about one another. Support does not always happen in front of cameras. Sometimes it may simply be asking, "Are you okay?" Sometimes it may be reminding someone to rest. Sometimes it may be helping them walk. Sometimes it may be checking whether they have eaten. Sometimes it may simply be sitting beside someone in silence. And those ordinary moments can mean much more than a viral clip. That is why the idea of Jimin supporting Jungkook has resonated so strongly with Jikook fans, even though the specific claim about Jimin accompanying him to the hospital remains unconfirmed. Fans are not necessarily reacting only to one supposed hospital moment. They are reacting to the broader image of two longtime teammates supporting each other through a demanding tour. And there is another reason this story has become especially emotional. Jungkook did not reveal his injury in isolation. He and V were speaking candidly after the Baltimore shows, and V himself also discussed his own health situation during the live stream. According to Yonhap, V revealed that he has been receiving treatment for a hearing problem and regularly visits the hospital. So the live stream became much more than a casual conversation. It showed fans another side of BTS, not just 7 performers under bright lights, but people dealing with the physical demands that come with an enormous world tour. That reality can be easy to forget when watching polished concert footage. The ARIRANG World Tour involves huge venues, intense choreography, long travel schedules, rehearsals, sound checks, performances, and constant movement between cities. For an artist who gives maximum effort every night, the physical demands can accumulate. Jungkook's Shin injury is a reminder of that reality. And his decision to speak about it may also help fans understand why they might see differences in his performance moving forward. If Jungkook does not jump during a particular song, that does not mean he is less excited. If he walks instead of running, that does not mean he is giving less effort. If he can service his energy, that does not mean he cares less about the audience. In fact, choosing to protect an injury may be one of the most responsible things he can do. There is also something deeply Jungkook-like about the situation. He reportedly wanted fans to understand rather than worry unnecessarily. He was not presenting himself as helpless. He was explaining what was happening. And he was making it clear that he would continue taking care of himself while trying to complete the tour. That balance is important. The goal should never be to romanticize an idol performing through serious pain. Instead, fans can appreciate the dedication while encouraging responsible recovery. And that brings us back to Jimin. Even without confirmation that Jimin accompanied Jungkook to the hospital, fans can still celebrate the broader bond they see between the two. But there is a line between appreciating publicly visible interactions and inventing private events. We do not know everything that happens behind closed doors. We do not know who accompanied Jungkook to the hospital. We do not know what conversations took place between the members afterward, and we should not pretend that we do. What we do know is that Jungkook went to the hospital. What we do know is that he described a painful Shin condition. What we do know is that he was concerned about the possibility of a stress fracture and mentioned inflammation and possible microdamage. And what we do know is that he is trying to manage his condition while the tour continues. Those facts are enough to understand why RMY are concerned. They are also enough to explain why fans are asking everyone around Jungkook to give him patience and support. For Jikook fans specifically, this moment has created a powerful conversation about what support really means. It does not have to be a romantic story. It does not have to involve secret information. It does not need a private hospital photo. Sometimes the most meaningful thing is simply hoping that the people around Jungkook are making sure he is okay. And if Jimin was there supporting him privately, that would be a beautiful example of friendship and teamwork. But until that is publicly confirmed, it should remain exactly that, a possibility, not a fact. This distinction does not make the story less touching. If anything, it makes the message more meaningful, because fans can support both Jimin and Jungkook without claiming access to their private lives. We can celebrate their public moments. We can appreciate their teamwork. We can talk about their chemistry. We can share our favorite Jikook memories. And at the same time, we can respect boundaries. Right now, the most important thing is Jungkook's health. The next performances should not be judged by how many times he jumps. They should not be judged by how fast he runs across the stage. They should not be judged by whether he performs exactly like he did at the beginning of the tour. Instead, fans should look at the bigger picture. Jungkook is still showing up. He is still singing. He is still giving fans memories. And he is trying to do that while managing an injury that he has now